The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Before he could wonder further, Suicune opened its mouth and let out a noise from its chest that was somewhere between a howl and an echoing song. The same musical notes were answered back to it in a bird-like cry that issued from over Gold's head. Then, Suicune bent its forelegs and leaned into an unmistakable bow. Gold turned and looked to see what this legendary Pokemon itself would pay reference to. He was not surprised at the sight that greeted him, but it still awed him to the core of his being. The Phoenix hovered above them, wings spread majestically as an archangel. She was lovely beyond description, as she always was, but the mists of Suicune's presence complemented her beauty specially. As her golden body moved and shimmered, the light refracted into a phantasmagoria of dancing rainbows. Spirit settled herself upon an overhanging bough and gazed benevolently upon Suicune and Gold. "Hello, Spirit," Gold stammered, taken aback by her magnificence, as he always was in the beginning. "Hello, Gold," she answered, her voice radiating joy. "It has only been a short time, but you are growing marvelously." Gold blushed and ducked his head. "Oh, thank you." After a moment, he looked up again. "I'm growing? Can you sense it?" Gold thought about it for a moment. Physically, he sensed no change, but something was different from before. Somehow, he felt more solid, more awake than he once had, and there was an underlying notion that had, at some point, taken root in his subconscious, a quiet assurance that, no matter how bad things got, everything would turn out right in the end. Gold nodded, and Spirit's eyes seemed to smile. She turned her attention for a moment to Suicune and sang 3 long musical notes. With a last quick bow, the water entity turned and fled into the trees, its blurring legs hardly seeming to touch the grass. "Just as with people, there is much strife between Pokemon," said Spirit, watching off in the direction Suicune had run. "And I call for many to be peacemakers, but sometimes I choose them. The North Wind is one such servant, good and faithful. Ever since Celebi withdrew her presence here, Suicune and the others have done what they can to calm the forest and other wild places. It has not been easy." Gold didn't doubt it. Apart from the natural inclination in Pokemon to fight, atop the double incitements to do so from the human side and Silver's, there was yet another confounding factor in the mix. Gold recalled the Purple Tuxedo Man, and how eagerly, how ruthlessly, he had sought Suicune out. He seemed to be clueless of the legendary Pokemon's work under Spirit's guidance, and why wouldn't he be? Up until that moment, Gold himself had known no better. It now dawned on him how little he knew about all the things that went on secretly in the world around him. Perhaps there was a reason that he had been drawn here by Suicune's wind, rather than Spirit telling him to come outright. Well, he was here at any rate. Gold looked down at the rocket grunt on the ground, whose face was still mostly shaded by his hat. "People like this probably don't make it any easier," Gold commented with distaste, kneeling beside the grunt. "Is this what you brought me here to see? What should I do with him?" "Look him in the eyes," said Spirit simply. Gold shrugged and pulled off the cap. His breath froze in his lungs when he saw the face beneath. It was Genichi. His coloration was ashen, with a tinge of green, similar to that of Marina's poison Pokemon from earlier. The only part of his flesh to remain red was the tip of each welt that had swelled his face into a lumpy mass. As he looked further down his body, Gold noticed other punctuated areas of Genichi's uniform, where the stings of poison-type Pokemon had stabbed through. What? Gold worked his jaw in an attempt to say something intelligible, but words were failing him. He took a few seconds to collect himself, and during that time, he put 2 fingers to Genichi's neck. There was still a pulse, but it was faint. "He is not in pain," Spirit said reassuringly, "and he is not in danger of dying." Finally, Gold found his tongue again. "Why is Genichi in a Team Rocket outfit?" he cried, curling his fingers and clawing the sides of his head. "And how did he get like this?" "That is his story to tell," replied Spirit. "When he is ready. For now, he still needs your help." At that, Gold could have kicked himself for not acting sooner. He lowered his hands to Genichi's face, but stopped himself before they made contact. There was something he felt he had to ask first. "Spirit?" he said, looking up at the phoenix. She still sat at rest upon her branch. "Are you going to fly away when he wakes up?" She nodded. "Why?" Gold asked, spreading his hands. "He's been wanting to see you. A lot of people have." Spirit closed her eyes. "The time is coming when I will show myself to many. For now, though, it is necessary that I am revealed only to those that I have chosen." She looked upon Gold, and her eyes were serious. "Just as I have chosen Suicune for the Pokemon, I chose you for the people. They may not heed you, but at least they will not try to capture you as a prized possession." Gold lowered his arms and bowed his head in acceptance. "All right." He looked up again imploringly. "I still don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Can't you just give me a little hint?" Spirit regarded him kindly. "You will be given the right words at the right time. Until then, go and plant seeds." She spread her wings and lifted off the branch. "As for Genichi, I will grant him a brief glimpse. If he desires more, he will seek me." With a last flash of her tail feathers, she was gone, as was the warmth and brightness that went with her. Genichi groaned and stirred at Gold's feet, his breathing becoming more pronounced. Gold sensed that he would be in a lot of pain soon, since Spirit's life-giving presence had hitherto been keeping it at bay. He knelt and placed his hands on the sides of Genichi's head. "Stand and be well," he intoned, feeling the same power of command that he had felt when banishing Silver's presence. Genichi sprang to his feet with the vigor of a student caught napping in class. He looked around with bright eyes, no trace of any illness or poison remaining in his skin. "Glory! Glory!" he cried, his gaze focusing intently on something Gold could not see. "Clothed in rainbow, a living wonder! Bright shines her plumage, and clear is her song! Bird of light, how—" He stopped and looked around, blinking and rubbing his eyes. After a few seconds of taking in the sight of the trees, he spotted Gold, and recognition flashed in his features. "Gold?" he asked slowly, stepping forward. "Is that you? Did you heal me?" "Yes." Genichi rushed forward so suddenly that Gold had no time to react. For a fraction of a second, he was certain Genichi was about to punch him. Instead, he felt Genichi's arms wrap around his shoulders in a bear hug that nearly knocked him off his feet. "Thank you, man!" Genichi cried, and there was a dry sob in his throat. I thought I was gonna die! This has been the worst day of my life! He let go and gripped Gold firmly by the shoulders, staring at him with an intensity Gold had never seen. It was as if Jinichi feared that looking away would cause him to vanish, leaving only the forest. Taken slightly aback, Gold gave him a reassuring pat on the arm, and Jinichi slowly released him. "Marina's waiting for us at the exit," said Gold, picking up his walking stick. "Come on, let's go see her. That'll cheer you both up." Jinichi nodded, looking eager to get moving. "You lead the way. It's getting darker, and I don't know where you guys came from." As the two of them headed back north, Jinichi talked non-stop, his eyes darting constantly to the upper branches of the trees. "This forest is way too dangerous for this part of the journey," he said, with the conviction of fear. "I was jumped all at once by a swarm of bugs bigger than any I've ever encountered in my life. I've never seen wild Pokemon so angry or aggressive. You'd think I threw rocks at their nest or something. They closed in on me, and I only had Bayleaf to protect myself. Onyx and Meryl were already down. I had stuff to revive them, but dumbass that I am, I'd resolved to save my stock for gym battles only." Jinichi's voice took on a bitter edge. "Just as I was about to be overwhelmed, some kid with 2 bird Pokemon happened along. I'd already been stung a couple of times by Weedle and Beedrill, so I screamed for help with everything I could muster. I know the guy heard me, but he didn't lift a finger to assist. He just stared as they piled on." Gold thought back to the boy with the 2 Farfetch'd, covered in sweat, and in a panic about Team Rocket. He'd had the power to help his fellow man in that moment, but made the choice not to. That was me. I almost did that same thing just yesterday. "At one point, I must have blacked out from the pain," Jinichi continued grimly. "But I'd have little snatches of consciousness again. The bug Pokemon didn't kill me for some reason, but left me for dead." He flicked his arm, which still had a loose string of webbing hanging from it. "Another guy came along, all fancily dressed with a white cape and an Alakazam following him. He was in some kind of hurry, but not in any danger that I could see." Jinichi's eyes narrowed. "He saw me, but his hurry couldn't wait. He left me lying here, just the same as the other guy." "The Tuxedo Man," thought Gold with some heat. "He was too focused on nabbing Suicune." "I never expected you to find me," said Jinichi, lowering his eyes with some embarrassment. "Not after I slipped off and broke away from Marina. Now you see why I did it." Gold glanced down at the R logo that stood emblazoned on Jinichi's chest. "If you're talking about your new duds, I still don't know the full why of it yet," he said. "But we came looking for you, both of us, and we would have, even knowing about the uniform." Jinichi looked at him, and there was gratitude in his eyes. "I believe you. I've seen the Phoenix now, and you go where she's been."